You don't get what you deserve in life. You get what you ask for. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a busy street, watching opportunities rush past you like cars. Some people step out, raise their hand, and signal clearly. They get picked up, moved forward, carried toward where they want to go. Others, maybe you, hesitate. You stand there quietly, hoping someone will notice your need without you saying a word. But the cars keep driving. The moments keep slipping, and the silence costs you more than you realize. That's the reality of life. You're not handed what you secretly wish for. You're handed what you boldly ask for. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't ask. They stall. They replay doubts in their heads like an endless tape loop. What if they say no? What if I sound selfish? What if they think less of me? So, they hold back. They wait for the right moment. They convince themselves patience is noble, when in fact, it's just fear wearing a polite mask. Meanwhile, the ones who ask, even imperfectly, step ahead. Now, right here. Let's draw a line in the sand. You are about to train your mind to stop living small, to stop waiting for someone else to hand you the permission slip of life. This is your wake-up call, your voice shaking you out of the dream that being quiet equals being safe. Safe doesn't get you what you want. Clear asking does. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the last time you wanted something deeply. Respect at work, affection from someone close, freedom to make your own choices. Did you speak it out loud, or did you swallow it, rehearsing instead of releasing, hoping your silence would somehow signal your need? Be honest, silence never signals what you think it does. Silence is interpreted as satisfaction. If you don't say you want more, the world assumes you're fine with less. The first truth you must tattoo into your thinking is this: asking is not weakness, it is responsibility. Responsible people don't dump their needs on others silently, waiting for rescue. They step forward, they clarify, they make their needs visible. The weight of that shift in mindset is enormous. It's not just about getting a raise, or more attention in a relationship, or more help in daily life. It's about reclaiming your power to direct where your energy goes. But before you can ask outwardly, you have to confront the war inside your own head. Every one of us carries invisible scripts we didn't choose. Maybe you grew up being told, "Don't be demanding," or "Be grateful for what you get." Maybe you learned that speaking up led to trouble, embarrassment, or rejection. Your nervous system remembers. That's why your chest tightens when you think about voicing your needs. It's not your fault, but it is your fight now. You can rewire that script. You can change the way you respond to that tightness, that flutter of nerves. Instead of treating it as a stop sign, you can treat it as proof that something important is at stake. Think about the people you admire, the leaders, the mentors, even the friends who seem to always land on their feet. They are not superhuman. They are not luckier than you. They are people who, at some point, decided their voice mattered enough to be heard. They ask, they risk, they accept that not every door opens, but they never stop knocking. That is the art of asking, not perfection, not flawless timing, but consistent courage. Let's pull this closer to your everyday life. Imagine tomorrow morning, you walk into your workplace. The meeting begins, ideas swirl, and you have a thought that could change the direction of the project. Normally, you might wait, hoping someone else raises it, or convincing yourself it's not important. This time, you lean in, you speak clearly, and you ask the room, "Can we consider this angle?" you've planted a flag. Even if your idea isn't chosen, you've shifted your identity from silent observer to active contributor. That small act is how confidence is built. And confidence, let's be clear, is not a gift you wait for. It's a muscle you grow. Every ask is a rep. Every no you survive is a heavier weight lifted. Every yes you receive adds strength to your voice. So stop telling yourself you need confidence before you can ask. The truth is flipped. You gain confidence by asking. Now, why does asking matter so much? Because your standards are silently shaping your life. What you tolerate becomes your normal. If you tolerate being overlooked, you'll keep being overlooked. If you tolerate scraps of attention, scraps of pay, scraps of respect, you'll keep receiving them. Raising your standards starts with raising your voice, not in anger, not in entitlement, but in clarity. Here's a practical drill. Every morning for the next week, stand in front of a mirror, look yourself dead in the eye, and say out loud, I matter. My voice matters. My needs matter. Do it even if it feels cheesy, even if you roll your eyes. Why? Because your brain wires itself through repetition, the same way negative self-talk has carved deep grooves in your mind. Positive affirmation can carve new ones, and those grooves will change how you carry yourself in conversations. You'll notice you make eye contact longer. Your voice steadies. Your requests sound less like apologies and more like facts. Remember this. Life does not reward silence. It rewards clarity. When you whisper your needs, you invite misunderstanding. When you state them clearly, you create movement. People are not mind readers. They're busy with their own lives, their own stresses, their own endless to-do lists. They cannot and will not guess what you need. You have to hand it to them in words they can hear. Let's tackle another myth head-on. Asking makes you a burden. That is a lie. The truth? Not asking when you need help drains relationships more. Think of a friend who never says what they need, but resents you silently when you don't guess it. Exhausting, right? Healthy people ask. They communicate clearly. They give others the chance to respond, and they take responsibility for voicing their truth. That builds trust, not tension. But what about rejection? What about the word no? You've been taught to fear it like fire. Here's a reframe. No is not the enemy. No is information. No means not right now or not this way. It redirects you toward a better approach, a better time, or a better opportunity. If you never risk hearing no, you never open the chance for yes. Silence is worse than rejection. It leaves you guessing, stuck in limbo, carrying weight that could have been released with one clear ask. Pause for a moment and imagine your future self, 5 years from now. Picture two versions. In the first, you keep living small, biting your tongue, waiting for recognition that never comes. You wake up one morning filled with regret, heavy with what-ifs. In the second version, you've practiced asking daily. You've built opportunities that once felt out of reach. You've created a life that feels aligned with your worth. Which version pulls at you more? Which feels like the story you want to live? The gap between those two futures is not talent, not luck, not fate. It's the art of asking. It's your choice to speak today instead of waiting. So let's get tactical again. Start small. Ask a coworker for clarification instead of pretending you understood. Ask a friend for their honest opinion. Ask for feedback, not to flatter your ego, but to sharpen your growth. These micro asks stack up. They teach your nervous system that nothing catastrophic happens when you voice your needs. In fact, most of the time, people respond better than you expect. And even when they don't, you walk away stronger because you acted instead of retreating. Repetition creates resilience. Just like an athlete doesn't build muscle by lifting once. You don't build asking power by speaking up once. You build it through consistency, through daily reps. And over time, something remarkable happens. Asking stops, feeling like a dramatic leap. It becomes normal, natural, effortless. That's where we're heading in this journey. You are not just going to dabble with asking. You are going to train your mind and body until asking feels like breathing. And in that state, doors you never thought possible swing open. Let this first section settle into your bones. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you ask for. From this moment forward, every hesitation, every tightness in your chest, every voice in your head whispering, "Stay quiet," you treat it as the very reason to speak. Because silence has already cost you enough. It's time to step forward. It's time to claim your right. It's time to ask. You've already felt the spark, that first realization that silence isn't serving you, that asking is the bridge to the life you want. But now we move deeper, because knowing the principle isn't enough. You need to believe you deserve more, not half-heartedly. Not when it's convenient, consistently, in your bones, like an inner compass that never wavers. Pause and check in with yourself. What do you truly believe about your worth? If someone could read your private thoughts, would they find a steady stream of self-respect? Or would they stumble into a back alley of doubts? I'm not ready. I don't matter. Others deserve more than me? If that's what circulates inside, then of course, you hesitate to ask. The voice of unworthiness will always silence you before anyone else does. So here's the starting point. Belief precedes boldness. You cannot consistently ask for better treatment, better opportunities, or better pay if, deep down, you've convinced yourself you don't deserve them. You might force the words out once or twice, but you'll sabotage yourself soon after. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on cracked foundations. The structure won't last. The good news? Belief is not fixed. You learned self-doubt. You can unlearn it. You absorbed quiet scripts from your family, your culture, your past experiences. You can rewrite them. Think of your beliefs like an operating system. If the current program keeps crashing, you don't keep using it. You install an upgrade. That's the work here. Upgrading your inner operating system from "I'm not enough" to "I am worthy, and I will ask accordingly." Let's ground this in a vivid picture. Imagine walking into a negotiation, maybe for a job, maybe for a project you've been working on. One version of you walks in, carrying hidden self-doubt. Even before you sit down, your body language betrays it. Shoulders slightly hunched, eyes darting, voice pitched higher than normal. When the moment comes to ask, you soften your request into a question disguised as an apology. "I was just wondering if maybe there's any chance of..." The other side senses the hesitation and offers crumbs, if anything at all. Now rewind. Imagine you enter with a different belief, one built from weeks of affirming your worth, rehearsing your clarity, practicing your stance. You sit tall, you breathe deeply, your voice is calm and measured. When it's time to speak, you ask directly. "Based on my contribution and the results I've delivered, I'd like us to discuss a raise." Same person, same context, but radically different outcomes. all because of the belief beneath your words. That's the invisible math of life. Your belief shapes your body shapes your presence, and your presence shapes the response you get. Change the belief, and the entire equation shifts in your favor. Now, how do you actually build deserving beliefs? Not through empty pep talks, but through 3 concrete practices. First, audit your self-talk. Catch yourself in the act of quiet sabotage. Maybe you mutter, "I'm not good enough," when a new challenge arises. Maybe you downplay your victories with, "It was nothing." Every word you whisper to yourself digs a groove in your brain. Start replacing them, out loud, if you can. When you hear the inner critic say, "I can't," respond, "I'm capable and growing." When it says, "I don't matter," counter with, "My voice matters." It may feel forced at first, but so did tying your shoes when you were a child. Repetition makes the unnatural natural. Second, collect evidence. Your brain believes what it can see. Keep a journal of your wins, big and small. Did you help someone solve a problem? Did you complete a project under pressure? Did you speak up once when you normally would have stayed quiet? Write it down. These records aren't ego boosts. They're proof. Proof that you bring value. Proof that you can step forward. Proof that you deserve more than scraps. Third, practice micro-asks. Every day, ask for something small. Clarification in a conversation. A slight adjustment to plans. A bit of help with a task. The point isn't the outcome. It's the identity shift. Each time you ask, you reinforce the belief, "I deserve to be heard." Over time, your brain stops fighting the idea. It starts expecting it. Let's not pretend this is easy. If you grew up in an environment where speaking up got you punished, ignored, or shamed, your nervous system might treat asking as danger. Your heart races, your throat tightens, your palms sweat. This isn't weakness, it's conditioning, and conditioning can be rewired. The way to do it is gradual exposure. Small steps that teach your body asking doesn't equal catastrophe. Just like someone afraid of water learns to swim by first touching the shallow end, you can retrain your system by easing into small, safe asks until your body calms down. Here's a visualization drill. Tonight, before bed, close your eyes and replay a moment where you held back from asking. See it clearly. But this time, change the script. Picture yourself breathing deep, squaring your shoulders, and voicing your need. Hear the words come out strong and steady. Watch the other person listen. Replay it again and again until your nervous system starts to accept this new reality. Tomorrow, test it in a small situation. That mental rehearsal primes your body for the real thing. Why go through all this effort? Because life never rises higher than your self-worth. If you carry the belief that you're only worth crumbs, that's exactly what you'll collect. If you raise your belief, you raise your standard, and your ask follows naturally. You no longer whisper requests like apologies. You state them as truths. Think about relationships. How many people settle for partners who don't respect their needs simply because they don't believe they deserve more? They silence themselves, shrink their desires, and call it compromise. But real love isn't built on shrinking. It's built on mutual respect. And respect starts with asking clearly for what you need. If someone can't handle that, they're not rejecting you. They're revealing themselves. That clarity saves you years of wasted energy. The same principle applies to your career. How many professionals sit in the same position for years, simmering with resentment, because they never ask for advancement? They wait for someone to notice their hard work. But managers aren't mind readers. The world rarely hands promotions to the quiet. It rewards those who step up and say, "I'm ready for more." Now pause. Imagine again your future self. Not 5 years this time, but tomorrow morning. You wake up, stand in front of the mirror, and instead of brushing off your reflection, you speak firmly. "I deserve more. Today, I will ask." That single sentence can change how you show up, in conversations, in meetings, in the way you carry yourself down the street. And when your energy changes, people notice, life notices. This isn't arrogance. This isn't entitlement. It's truth. Entitlement demands without giving. Arrogance inflates without substance. But deserving beliefs simply align with reality. You are human, you have value, and your needs count. Pretending otherwise doesn't make you humble. It makes you invisible. And invisibility is not your destiny. You were not born to fade into the background. You were born with potential. But potential means nothing without belief. And belief means nothing without action. So you build the belief first. Then you step into action by asking. Think of it as a dance. Belief takes the first step. Asking follows, and results swirl in. No belief, no dance. You just stand still, watching others move ahead. But once belief moves, momentum builds, one step, then another. Then suddenly, you're not just in the dance, you're leading it. So right now, decide. What will you stop tolerating? Where have you been accepting scraps, convincing yourself it's enough? Write it down. Then write the higher standard you will ask for instead. This is not wishful thinking. It's the blueprint for your next moves. As this section draws to a close, let the message sink deeper. Before your voice can rise in the world, it must rise in your own mind. Belief is the soil. Asking is the seed. Plant the seed in barren soil, and nothing grows. Enrich the soil with worthiness, and the seed becomes unstoppable. You deserve more, not someday, not after you've proven yourself 1,000 times over. You deserve more because you exist, because you contribute, because you matter. Own that belief, and the way you ask will change forever. You've started planting new beliefs. You've begun to see yourself as someone who deserves to ask, who deserves to be heard. But belief alone doesn't erase years of conditioning. It doesn't dissolve the nervous habits and silent scripts you've carried since childhood. To ask freely, you must unlearn silence. The deep-rooted conditioning that taught you keeping quiet was safer than speaking your truth. Think back to when you were young. Maybe you raised your hand in class and got laughed at. Maybe you asked for something at home and were told, "Stop being greedy." Maybe you wanted attention, only to be brushed off with, "Be quiet. Don't make a fuss." Each of those moments was a small sting, but your brain remembered. Over time, those stings built a pattern, like grooves etched into stone. Speaking equals danger. Silence equals safety. Now, here you are as an adult, still carrying those grooves. You feel a tightening in your chest before you speak, a tremor in your hands, a hesitation on your lips. That's not weakness, it's programming. Your nervous system is firing the same alerts it fired years ago. But here's the truth. What once kept you safe is now keeping you stuck. You can't move forward with old wiring. You need to unlearn silence the way you'd unlearn a bad habit. And like any habit, silence is broken not by one dramatic leap, but by daily consistent rewiring. Start with awareness. The next time you hold back from speaking, don't beat yourself up. Just notice. Notice the tightness in your body, the excuse your mind whispers, the way you swallow the words before they leave your mouth. Awareness is power. You can't change what you won't even look at. Once you've noticed, intervene. Replace silence with a small action. Maybe you don't voice the entire thought in a meeting, but you ask a clarifying question. Maybe you don't tell your partner everything on your mind, but you state one clear preference. I'd like us to do this differently. These micro breaks in the silence start teaching your brain. See? The world didn't collapse. I spoke, and I survived. This is how conditioning rewires, through exposure. The same way a musician practices scales until their fingers move automatically. You practice speaking small truths until your nervous system stops panicking. Over time, your body learns silence isn't safety anymore. Asking is. But let's go deeper. Silence doesn't just show up in your words. It shows up in your posture, in the way you minimize yourself in a room. Do you hunch your shoulders? Avoid eye contact? Speak softer than you need to? That's silence living in your body. Your body has been trained to shrink. The antidote is expansion. Here's a drill. Every day, stand tall for 2 minutes, feet planted firmly, shoulders back, arms relaxed but open. Breathe deeply. Imagine your spine lengthening, your chest widening. Say aloud, I take up space. My voice belongs here. This isn't just posture, it's practice. When you expand your body, you expand your energy, and people respond differently. The world takes its cues from how you carry yourself. Now, let's talk about guilt, the silent twin of silence. Many of us don't just fear speaking up. We feel guilty when we do. We worry we're burdening others, that our needs are inconvenient. That guilt is just another strand of conditioning. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that asking makes you selfish, but selfishness is taking without giving. Asking is sharing truth. It's honesty. It's clarity. And clarity is never selfish. It's respect. Think about the people in your life you care about. Don't you want them to tell you what they need? Don't you feel relieved when they're clear, instead of leaving you guessing? Then why assume others wouldn't want the same from you? Silence cheats relationships. It forces others to guess, and when they guess wrong, resentment builds. Asking clearly is not a burden, it's a gift. Another trap of silence is overthinking. You replay scenarios endlessly. If I ask, maybe they'll think I'm weak. If I speak, maybe they'll laugh. If I stay quiet, at least I won't risk embarrassment. That cycle paralyzes you. The cure is action. Action interrupts overthinking. The moment you voice the words, the mental storm dissolves. So build a new reflex. When your mind starts spiraling with what ifs, use it as a cue to ask something small immediately. Break the loop with action. You'll notice the storm loses its grip because you've trained yourself to move forward instead of spiraling backward. Consider this scenario. You're in a team meeting and the leader asks for input. The old you stays quiet, heart pounding, waiting for the moment to pass. Afterward, you regret it, telling yourself, I should have said something. That regret weighs heavier than any rejection would have. Now imagine the new you. The same nerves arise, but instead of freezing, you breathe and speak a short sentence. I'd like to add a perspective here. The leader may agree, disagree, or ask questions. But either way, you've broken the silence. You've reprogrammed the pattern. That's progress. Unlearning silence also means examining who benefits from your quiet. Sometimes, people around you grow comfortable with your silence because it keeps them in control. They don't have to adjust. They don't have to compromise. They don't have to share space. The moment you start asking, those people might resist. They might call you demanding, difficult, or ungrateful. Don't fall for it. Their discomfort isn't proof you're wrong. It's proof you're changing the script. That's why unlearning silence requires courage. You're not just changing your voice. You're changing dynamics. Some people won't like it, but the right people will respect it. They'll lean in. They'll welcome the clarity. Pay attention to that difference. It shows you who truly values your presence. Let's ground this with a powerful metaphor. Imagine you've been living in a house with dirty windows for years. The light outside is beautiful, but inside, it's dim. You've gotten used to the dimness, convincing yourself this is just how life is. Then one day, you wipe the glass. Suddenly, light floods in, and you realize you've been living in shadow unnecessarily. That's what happens when you unlearn silence. You clean the window of your voice, and life shines in. So here's your challenge. Pick one situation today where you normally stay quiet and say one clear sentence instead. Don't dress it up. Don't apologize. Just state it. It might feel like a whisper compared to the roar of your fears, but it's a start, and every start matters. Over time, silence stops feeling safe. It starts feeling suffocating. And asking stops feeling dangerous. It starts feeling natural. That's the shift we're aiming for. You'll know you've unlearned silence when staying quiet feels like betrayal, not to others, but to yourself. And when that shift happens, something remarkable follows. Your world expands. Opportunities you never noticed appear. Respect you never demanded arrives. Connections deepen, not because life suddenly got kinder, but because you finally gave it something to respond to. Your voice. So breathe, speak, break the silence. Your nervous system will catch up. Your conditioning will loosen. And with every word you voice, you'll carve a new groove. Not silence, but strength. You've begun to loosen the grip of silence, to see it not as safety, but as a cage you can step out of. Yet even as your beliefs strengthen and your conditioning softens, one challenge remains: nerves. That shaky, sweaty, tight-chested moment before you open your mouth. That surge of energy your body labels as danger. It's here that most people stop. They mistake nervousness for a command to retreat. But the truth is simple. Nervousness is not a stop sign. It's a green light. It means what you're about to do matters. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a diving board. Your toes curl on the edge. Your heart pounds. Your breath shortens. Every signal screams, "Don't jump." But you know the water will hold you. You know you'll come up stronger on the other side. Nervousness is the body's way of saying, "Pay attention. This moment is alive, and the only way through it is to move." The same principle applies to speaking your needs. When your voice trembles, when your palms sweat, when your stomach flips, that's not weakness. That's energy. Energy you can redirect, not avoid. Think of an actor stepping onto a stage. They feel the same nerves, but instead of retreating, they breathe into it, channeling that current into presence. The audience never sees fear. They see intensity. Here's the shift. Stop waiting for nerves to vanish. They might never disappear. Instead, learn to act while they're present. Courage isn't the absence of nerves. It's the decision to speak anyway. So how do you do that? Start with breath. When fear rises, your breathing grows shallow, signaling your brain that danger is real. Reverse it. Inhale deeply through your nose. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale slowly. That breath tells your nervous system, I am safe. Do it twice, 3 times, until your pulse steadies. Then speak. Next, slow your pace. Nerves make you rush. Your words tumble out too fast, betraying the fear you're trying to hide. Practice pausing. Give your sentences space. Silence between words isn't weakness, it's weight. It shows confidence. It tells the listener you believe what you're saying matters enough to let it land. Another tool is microscripts. Prepare short, clear phrases you can fall back on when nerves hit. For example, I'd like to add a thought here. Can we consider another angle? What I need right now is clarity. These scripts are like footholds on a climb. They keep you steady while your confidence catches up. The more you use them, the more natural they feel. But let's go deeper into why nervousness arises. Your body was designed to protect you. When it senses risk, it releases cortisol and adrenaline, preparing you to fight or flee. Speaking up, for many, feels like a social threat, the possibility of rejection or embarrassment. Your body reacts as if a predator were chasing you. But here's the flaw. The predator isn't real. It's imagined. You're not fighting for survival. You're asking for clarity, respect, opportunity. Recognizing this helps you reinterpret the sensation. Those shaky hands? Not danger, just adrenaline waiting to be directed. Reframing nervousness also changes the story in your head. Instead of saying, I'm terrified, say, I'm energized. Research shows your body can't tell much difference between fear and excitement. The same chemicals flow. The difference is the label you give it. So give it a label that empowers you. Now imagine a conversation you've been avoiding, maybe with your boss, your partner, or a friend. You know what you need to say, but nerves keep shutting you down. Visualize yourself walking into that room. Feel the nerves rise. Instead of backing away, you breathe. You slow down. You lean into your script. There's something important I'd like to discuss. The words leave your lips. The nerves are still there, but you're speaking through them. That's victory. That's growth. And each time you repeat this, the nervousness loses power. The first time, your voice may shake. The second time, it steadies. By the 10th time, you'll notice the nerves still arrive, but they don't control you anymore. They become background noise, like the hum of an air conditioner. You hear it, but it doesn't stop you. Here's a practice drill. Every day for 1 week, intentionally put yourself in a small situation that makes you nervous. Ask a stranger for directions even when you know the way. Request an upgrade at a cafe. Raise your hand in a group and ask a question. Don't chase the outcome. Chase the feeling. The goal is not the yes or no, but the repetition of speaking while nervous. That's how you build emotional muscle. Let's talk about the hidden benefit of nervousness. It signals authenticity. When you're nervous, it shows you care. A trembling voice can still deliver truth. In fact, sometimes it lands more deeply because people sense your vulnerability. They see you're not hiding behind arrogance. You're being real. And real builds connection. Think of a time you heard someone confess something important with a shaking voice. You didn't think less of them, did you? You leaned in. You respected the courage it took to speak through fear. Others will see you the same way. Nervousness doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Here's the deeper truth. If you wait for nerves to vanish, you'll wait forever. If you act despite nerves, you grow forever. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who soar isn't confidence. It's action in the presence of fear. So stop bargaining with your nerves. Stop telling yourself, "I'll speak when I feel ready." Readiness is a myth. Readiness is built by doing. The moment you speak while nervous, you become the kind of person who speaks while nervous. And that identity reshapes your future. Let this sink in. Your nerves are not an enemy to conquer, but an ally to train. They remind you you're alive, that you're stretching, that you're stepping into territory that matters. Embrace them, breathe through them, and keep talking. Because the world doesn't reward the silent, it rewards the bold, the imperfect, the ones who speak even when their hands shake. That can be you. Starting now. You've felt the nerves. You've learned to breathe through them. And you've started to claim space even when your voice shakes. But another hidden barrier waits in the shadows. Guilt. The belief that asking makes you a burden. That by voicing your needs, you're somehow taking something away from others. This is one of the deepest lies society plants in us. And until you break it, your voice will always tremble with apology. Think about how many times you've swallowed a request because you didn't want to bother anyone. You needed help, but you told yourself, "I'll figure it out on my own." You wanted clarity, but you thought, "It's not a big deal. I'll let it go." On the surface, it feels noble, self-reliant, considerate, polite. But underneath, it's fear dressed up as courtesy. Here's the truth. Asking is not a burden. Asking is a responsibility. It is your responsibility to speak your needs clearly. Because if you don't, no one else can. People are not mind readers. If you expect them to guess, you set both yourself and them up for frustration. When you hide what matters, resentment builds silently. Over time, that resentment turns toxic, not because others ignored you, but because you ignored yourself. Let's use a metaphor. Imagine you're traveling with a group and you twist your ankle. The pain is sharp, but you stay silent. You don't want to slow anyone down. You keep walking, limping behind, hoping the pain fades. Hours later, you collapse from exhaustion. The group is shocked. "Why didn't you say something?" they ask. You thought silence would spare them, but it only created more damage for everyone. That's what happens when you withhold your needs. You end up harming not just yourself, but the relationships around you. Now flip it. Imagine you speak up right away. "I've twisted my ankle. I need a pause." The group adjusts. Maybe someone shares your load. Maybe the pace slows. Maybe they find a better route. Everyone continues together. Your honesty didn't burden the group. It allowed them to support you, to stay united. That's what asking does. It gives others the chance to stand with you. So why do so many people confuse asking with burdening? Because from a young age, many of us were taught to equate need with weakness. If you grew up hearing, "Don't ask for too much," or "Be grateful for what you have," you internalized the idea that your needs were excessive, even selfish. That conditioning stays with you. But remember this: selfishness is taking without giving. Asking is giving clarity. Selfishness hides truth. Asking exposes truth. Which one builds stronger connections? Look at the healthiest relationships you know. Romantic, familial, professional. What do they share? Clarity. People in strong relationships don't play guessing games. They ask directly. They trust each other enough to be honest. That's why they thrive. Weak relationships, by contrast, are filled with unspoken resentments and assumptions. Silence feels polite in the moment, but erodes trust over time. Here's another angle. When you don't ask, you actually place a heavier burden on others. You force them to guess. You make them carry the hidden weight of your silence. They sense something's wrong, but they can't fix what you won't name. That's unfair, far from sparing them. Your silence traps them in confusion. Asking, then, is not selfish. It's respectful. It frees others to respond with clarity. Let's practice. Instead of hinting, "It'd be nice if someone helped me," say directly, "Can you help me with this?" Instead of apologizing, "Sorry, I hate to ask, but," say calmly, "I need your support here." The difference is night and day. One drips with guilt, the other stands with responsibility, and responsibility is respected. Still, the guilt feels heavy, doesn't it? You might wonder, what if they say no? What if they judge me? Let's confront that. A no is not proof you asked wrongly. It's simply information about the other person's capacity in that moment. If someone can't meet your need, that's their limit, not your failure. Your job is to ask, not to control the answer. A no might sting, but it's better than the silent decay of unmet needs. Here's a practical drill to unlearn guilt. For the next 7 days, write down one thing you want each morning, big or small. At some point in the day, voice it. Ask for it clearly. Then, at night, reflect. Did the world collapse? Did people recoil? Or did they respond better than your fear predicted? Over time, you'll collect evidence that asking is not destruction, it's construction. Another tool is reframing. When guilt whispers, "You're bothering them," answer with, "I'm giving them the chance to know me better." When guilt says, "I shouldn't need this," respond, "Every human has needs. This is normal." When guilt insists, "I'll look weak," remind yourself, weakness hides, strength speaks. Imagine a workplace where no one asked for help. Projects would stall, mistakes would multiply, morale would plummet. Now imagine a team where asking was normal, where people voiced needs openly. The work would flow faster, relationships would deepen, stress would lighten. Asking doesn't break systems, it strengthens them. And the same is true for your life. Here's something else to consider. Asking honors your contribution. If you show up, if you give value, if you put in effort, then asking is not a burden. It's balance. It's the natural exchange of give and take. To silence yourself is to devalue what you've already invested. You've earned the right to be heard by the very fact that you show up. And remember, if someone truly respects you, your ask will never be seen as a burden. They might not always grant it, but they'll appreciate your clarity. If someone consistently shames you for speaking up, the problem isn't your ask, it's their lack of respect. That knowledge is powerful. It helps you choose where to invest your energy. So the next time guilt creeps in, flip the script. Instead of thinking, "I'm asking too much," tell yourself, "I'm asking just enough to honor my worth." Instead of shrinking back, step forward. Speak calmly, speak clearly, and watch how the world adjusts around you. You'll notice something remarkable. The more you ask without guilt, the more others respect you. They begin to see you as someone who knows their value, someone who communicates with clarity, and respect attracts respect. It becomes a cycle. You ask, you're respected, and that respect fuels more asking. Let this truth settle deep. Asking is not a burden. It is a declaration that you matter, that your needs count, that your presence is not negotiable. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop softening your edges to make others comfortable. Step into the space that's already yours and speak. Because when you ask without guilt, you don't just claim your needs, you claim your power. And power used with honesty and respect doesn't burden the world, it lifts it. You've dismantled the lie that asking makes you a burden. You've learned to step into responsibility rather than guilt. But another trap still holds countless people back. The habit of waiting for permission, waiting for the perfect time, waiting for someone else to say, "You're ready now." If you've ever caught yourself stalling, telling yourself, "I'll ask when I feel more confident," then you already know this trap well. Let's be brutally honest. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they keep waiting. They wait so long that opportunities pass them by. They wait so long that people less skilled, less experienced, less prepared step forward and claim the very chances they were hoping for. The tragedy isn't lack of ability, it's delay. Think about how often you've sat on an idea, a request, or a desire, hoping someone else would notice. You tell yourself it's not the right moment, not the right mood, not the right setting. Days pass, weeks pass. The fire inside dims. Meanwhile, someone else speaks, someone else acts, and they walk away with what could have been yours. Why do we do this? Because we were trained from childhood to seek permission. At school, you raised your hand and waited for the teacher's nod. At home, you waited for a parent's approval before taking action. That conditioning doesn't disappear just because you're an adult. It lingers, whispering, "Wait until someone says you can." But adulthood doesn't come with permission slips. The only one who can greenlight your future is you. Here's the shift you need. Permission is not given, it's claimed. Waiting feels safe, it feels polite. But underneath, waiting is fear in disguise, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being seen as presumptuous. So you delay. But what does waiting really give you? Nothing but more waiting, nothing but regret. Consider this. Every no you fear is at least an answer. It tells you where to go next, what to refine, how to adjust. But waiting? Waiting gives you nothing. It leaves you stranded in limbo, rehearsing conversations in your head while real life moves on without you. Imagine you're standing at a train station. Trains arrive, doors open, passengers step on. You keep telling yourself, "I'll wait for the next one. That one looks too crowded. Maybe the next will be better." Train after train leaves, and you're still standing there. At some point, you realize you were never waiting for the right train. You were waiting for courage, and courage only appears when you step on board. So how do you stop waiting? You act before you feel ready. You ask when your stomach flips, when your heart pounds, when your mind screams. Not yet. Because growth never feels ready. Readiness is built through doing, not before it. Here's a simple drill. Every day for the next week, when you catch yourself hesitating, set a 3-second rule. Count down, 3, 2, 1, and act. Send the message, ask the question, raise your hand. The rule bypasses the spiral of overthinking and forces you into motion. Now, let's address the myth of the perfect time. There is no perfect time. There is only the present. Waiting for the stars to align is like waiting for the tide to stop moving. you'll be standing there forever. The people who succeed are not the ones who waited until every detail was flawless. They are the ones who acted while things were messy, while they were uncertain, while conditions were imperfect. Think of entrepreneurs who launched before they felt ready. Think of artists who shared work before it was polished. Think of leaders who spoke up without guarantees. They moved first, and momentum carried them further. You can do the same. Here's another perspective. Every day you wait, you're reinforcing a habit of delay. The brain learns through repetition. If you rehearse hesitation, hesitation becomes your reflex. If you rehearse action, action becomes your reflex. Which reflex do you want shaping your future? Waiting is also a thief of self-respect. Each time you silence yourself, you send your own mind a message. My voice doesn't matter. My timing doesn't matter. I don't trust myself. Over time, that message erodes your confidence more than any external rejection ever could. The antidote? Act now. Each ask, each step, each moment of boldness is a deposit into your self-respect account. Picture a child at a playground who wants to join a game. They hover at the edge, waiting for someone to invite them. Minutes pass. The game goes on without them. Another child, less skilled but more direct, runs up and says, "Can I play?" The answer is yes. Not because they were the best, but because they asked. That lesson doesn't vanish with age. Life is the same playground. Those who ask join the game. Those who wait, watch. Now let's get practical. Think of one area of your life where you've been waiting. Maybe it's asking for recognition at work. Maybe it's voicing a need in your relationship. Maybe it's reaching out for an opportunity. Write it down. Then set a deadline. Today. Not next week. Within the next 24 hours. Take one action that moves it forward. It doesn't have to be big. Send an email, schedule a conversation, draft the words you'll say. The act itself breaks the pattern of waiting. And when fear rises, because it will, remind yourself. The cost of waiting is always higher than the cost of rejection. Rejection stings for a moment. Regret lingers for years. Which pain would you rather live with? Understand this too. When you act without waiting, you shift how others see you. People respect initiative. They respect those who step forward without being invited. They notice boldness, and boldness creates momentum. Think of momentum like a flywheel. It's heavy at first, hard to push. But once it starts spinning, each push gets easier, and the wheel turns faster. Your first asks may feel like shoving a stone, but with repetition, the wheel moves, and soon, action becomes natural. Waiting no longer tempts you, because motion feels better than stillness. So stop waiting for the nod, the signal, the permission slip. Step forward, ask now, speak now, move now. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're unsure. Because the greatest tragedy isn't hearing no. It's never knowing what could have been if you'd asked. Your next level doesn't wait for you. It rewards you when you stop waiting for it. You've stopped waiting for permission. You've started stepping forward before you feel ready. But there's another wall most people slam into. The fear of rejection. The single word no holds such power that it freezes even the most talented, hard-working, deserving individuals. That two-letter response can feel heavier than any stone. Why? Because you don't just hear the word, you hear the story your mind attaches to it. Think about it. Someone says no to your request. On the surface, it's just a refusal, a boundary, a limitation. But your brain translates it into something personal. I'm not good enough. I shouldn't have asked. I've embarrassed myself. I'll never try again. You see, the word itself isn't the problem. It's the meaning you glue onto it. So here's the reframe that will change your relationship with rejection. No is not rejection. No is direction. Imagine you're driving and you hit a roadblock. Do you throw the keys away, abandon the car, and decide driving isn't for you? Of course not. You turn, you reroute, you find another way. That's what no really is. A detour, not a dead end. Yet most people treat it like a final verdict on their worth. It's time to unlearn that lie. Consider this. The most successful people you know have heard more no's than you can imagine. Authors rejected by dozens of publishers. Entrepreneurs told their ideas would never work. Leaders laughed at before they were respected. The difference between them and those who gave up is simple. They didn't treat no as a stop sign. They treated it as feedback. And feedback is fuel. No tells you something valuable. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe the person wasn't the right fit. Maybe your approach needed sharpening. Whatever the reason, each no carries information. And information is progress, if you use it. Here's an exercise. Recall 3 times you were told no. Write them down. Then, for each, ask yourself, what did I learn? How did that rejection redirect me? You'll start to see that some of your best opportunities came not despite rejection, but because of it. The job you didn't get freed you to chase the one that fit better. The relationship that ended created space for something healthier. The closed door nudged you toward the right hallway. Now, let's get practical about facing no. Start by exposing yourself to it on purpose. Ask for things knowing rejection is likely. Request a discount at a store. Ask for an upgrade at a hotel. Offer an idea that might not be chosen. Each time you hear no and survive, the word loses its sting. You realize it doesn't define you. It doesn't break you. It simply guides you. This practice builds resilience. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about facing it until it no longer controls you. The first rejection might sting like a slap. The 10th feels like a shrug. The 50th barely registers. That's when you know you've rewired your response. But let's talk about the deeper psychology. Rejection triggers the same brain pathways as physical pain. That's why it hurts so much. It's literally processed like injury. But just like your body heals from a scrape, your mind can heal from rejection. The more often you experience it, the faster you recover. And eventually, the fear of pain shrinks because your brain learns you can handle it. Reframing no also means questioning the stories you attach. Instead of, they said no, so I must be unworthy. Tell yourself, they said no, so I learned where not to spend my energy. Instead of, this means I failed, say, this means I've clarified my direction. Words matter. The stories you choose decide whether rejection is a prison or a compass. Here's another layer. Many times, no isn't about you at all. People say no because they're busy, tired, distracted, afraid, or simply not ready. Their capacity is limited, their timing misaligned. Yet you take it personally, as if their answer was a verdict on your soul. It's not. It's about them, not you. Picture yourself knocking on doors in a neighborhood. Some doors stay closed, some open a crack, some swing wide and invite you in. You don't take the closed doors as proof you're worthless. You keep knocking until you find the right one. Life is the same street. No just means not this door. And remember, Every no brings you closer to the yes that matters. If you stop after one rejection, you may never reach the door that was waiting for you. But if you keep moving, if you keep knocking, the odds eventually bend in your favor. Persistence is the bridge between rejection and success. Here's a drill to practice persistence. For the next 30 days, make one ask daily that risks a no. Track your results. You'll notice two things. First, you hear yes more often than you expected. Second, the no's sting less each time. By the end, you'll no longer see them as failures. You'll see them as normal, even useful. Let's tackle another hidden danger: self-rejection. Many people don't wait for others to say no. They reject themselves before they even try. They think, why bother? The answer will probably be no. And so they never ask. That's the cruelest kind of rejection, rejecting yourself in advance. Stop doing the other person's job. Your role is to ask. Their role is to answer. Don't take both roles on yourself. Now let's imagine the ripple effect of changing your relationship with no. You stop hesitating. You ask boldly, clearly, without apology. Sometimes you hear yes. Sometimes you hear no. But in both cases, you move forward. People start to see you differently, not as someone timid or unsure, but as someone courageous, someone willing to risk discomfort for clarity. That identity shift changes everything. Because here's the truth. People respect those who ask boldly, even when the answer is no. They respect the clarity, the directness, the honesty, and over time, they begin to trust you more, not less. Ironically, the very thing you fear, rejection, becomes the foundation of stronger respect and deeper connections. So let's settle this once and for all. No is not the end of your story. It's a sentence within it, maybe even a comma. A pause before the next chapter unfolds. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it silence you. Train yourself to hear no and keep moving. Train yourself to see it as redirection, not rejection. Because the ones who succeed are not those who never hear no. They are the ones who keep asking, keep learning, keep moving through every no until the right yes arrives. And that can be you. You've learned that rejection is direction, that no is not an end, but a guidepost. Now it's time to sharpen your next skill: clarity. Because even when you find the courage to ask, even when you've broken the weight of silence and fear, most people still fail for one simple reason: they don't say exactly what they want. Think about how often people speak in circles. They drop hints. They soften their words. They wrap their requests in layers of politeness until the actual message is lost. Then they walk away frustrated, muttering, "Why don't they ever listen to me?" The truth is, people can't meet needs they don't understand. Vague words lead to vague results. Clarity, on the other hand, creates movement. When you state your ask directly, people know exactly how to respond. They don't waste energy guessing. They don't get trapped in confusion. They hear you, and they can act. That's why clarity is not rude. Clarity is respect. Respect for your own time. Respect for theirs. Let's start with the psychology behind vagueness. Why do so many people avoid speaking plainly? Because plain language feels risky. If you say, "I'd like a raise," and the answer is no, the rejection feels sharp. But if you say, "I feel like I've been working hard lately," you can protect yourself with ambiguity. It's safer to hint than to declare. Safer, yes, but also useless. Your message never lands, and your needs remain unmet. Here's the paradox. Vagueness feels safe, but creates conflict. Clarity feels risky, but creates peace. Misunderstandings don't come from asking too directly. They come from dancing around what you really mean. So how do you practice clarity? First, decide what you truly want before you speak. Sit with yourself. Ask, what outcome am I actually looking for here? If you can't define it clearly to yourself, you'll never be able to state it clearly to others. Next, strip the fluff. Don't pile on justifications, excuses, or apologies. Replace, I know you're really busy and I hate to ask this, but maybe if it's not too much trouble, could you help me with this? Direct, respectful, clear. Another tip, swap emotional words for concrete ones. Instead of, I feel like no one supports me, say, I'd like you to attend the meeting with me. Instead of, things feel overwhelming, say, I need 2 hours alone this weekend. Emotional words leave people guessing. Concrete words give them something to act on. Here's a drill to strengthen your clarity. Write down 3 needs you've been hesitant to voice. For each, craft 1 direct sentence. Then speak those sentences aloud in front of a mirror until they feel natural. When the real moment comes, your voice will already know the shape of the words. Let's add a body language layer. Clear words must be carried by clear presence. Stand tall. Breathe evenly. Make eye contact. If your words are strong but your body shrinks, the message weakens. Alignment matters. When your posture, tone, and words match, people sense honesty, and honesty commands attention. Now, consider the difference between being assertive and being aggressive. Aggressive communication bulldozes others. It's loud, emotional, dismissive. Assertive communication is calm, firm, and respectful. It says, "This is my truth," without trampling theirs. That balance is what clarity demands. You don't need volume to be strong. You need precision. Here's an example. Imagine you're negotiating project deadlines. The vague approach sounds like, "I'm not sure, but I think it might be too soon to finish everything." The clear, assertive approach sounds like, "Given the current scope, I'll need an additional 2 weeks to deliver at the quality you expect." See the difference? One creates uncertainty. The other creates trust. Clarity also protects relationships. When you speak vaguely, others misinterpret. Misinterpretations breed resentment. Over time, resentment corrodes trust. But when you're clear, even if the answer isn't what you hoped, the respect remains. People can handle honesty. What they can't handle is confusion. Another angle. Clarity saves energy. Every vague conversation creates follow-ups, misunderstandings, and corrections. Clear words save time. They cut through noise. That efficiency isn't just practical, it builds influence. People begin to see you as someone who communicates cleanly, someone who respects direction, someone they can trust. But what if clarity feels awkward? Good. Awkward means you're breaking old habits. You're unlearning decades of softening, hinting, disguising. The discomfort is proof you're growing. Push through it, because the alternative, staying vague, is far more costly. Here's a scenario to picture. You're in a relationship and feel neglected. The vague approach, it just feels like you don't care anymore. The clear approach, I'd like us to spend 2 evenings together this week without phones. Which one is more likely to create change? Which one is fairer to the other person? Which one builds connection instead of defensiveness? Always clarity. One more drill. Practice the clarity pause. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this sentence clear enough that a stranger could act on it? If not, sharpen it. Clarity is not about perfect words, but about clean ones. Clean words carry weight. And remember, clarity isn't only about asking others. It's about being honest with yourself. Stop telling yourself you're fine when you're not. Stop avoiding your own truths because they're uncomfortable. If you can't be clear with yourself, you'll never be clear with anyone else. So, strip away the fog. Speak your truth plainly. Say exactly what you want without confusion, without apology, without fear. Because the world doesn't reward vague wishes. It rewards direct voices. Clarity is power. And once you claim it, your asks stop sounding like whispers in the wind. They become signals, loud, unmistakable, impossible to ignore. Clarity sharpens your voice. But the story doesn't end there. Once you learn to ask directly, the next vital step is noticing how people respond. Because not everyone will respect your ask. Not everyone will treat your words with the value they deserve. And if you ignore those signals, you risk staying in spaces where your voice is consistently diminished. Here's the truth. Respect is revealed in response. Pay attention to what happens after you speak clearly. Do people listen? Do they pause, reflect, and respond honestly, even if the answer is no? Or do they brush you off, change the subject, roll their eyes, or make you feel guilty for asking at all? These reactions tell you everything about the relationship, whether professional or personal. Respect doesn't mean everyone says yes to you. Respect means your ask is heard, acknowledged, and treated as valid. Someone may decline, but they'll decline with honesty, not with dismissal. They'll say, "I understand what you're asking. Here's why I can't right now," instead of ignoring your words completely. That's the difference between respect and control. So, let's draw a line. When someone consistently disregards your voice, it's not a miscommunication. It's a message. A message that says, "Your needs don't matter to me." You can't afford to ignore that message, because if you accept it, you start believing it yourself. You start shrinking, doubting, and silencing again. Think about relationships where one person always gives, always flexes, always stays quiet, while the other takes advantage of that silence. Over time, the giver feels invisible. That's not love. That's control. The same dynamic plays out in workplaces. Employees who speak up but are constantly dismissed stop contributing. Their energy dies. Their talent fades. And all because their asks were ignored. This is why noticing matters. When you ask, you're not just making a request. You're testing the soil. Healthy soil will nurture your words. Toxic soil will choke them. The way people respond shows you where to plant your future. Here's a practical drill. For the next month, keep a response log. Each time you make an ask, note the reaction. Was it respected, ignored, mocked, delayed, or supported? Patterns will emerge. Some people will consistently honor your voice. Others will consistently avoid it. That pattern is the truth. Believe it. And here's the hard truth. You may discover that some of the people closest to you don't respect your ask. That realization stings. But it's better to see clearly than to live in denial. Because once you see it, you have a choice. Keep investing in people who diminish you, or redirect your energy toward those who uplift you. Think of it this way. Your ask is a mirror. When you place it in front of someone, their reaction reflects how they value you. Do they meet your eyes, acknowledge the reflection, and respond with care? Or do they turn away, as if your needs don't exist? That reflection is not about your worth. It's about their respect. Don't confuse the two. Respect also shows up in follow-through. Someone may nod while you speak, but do they act? Do they remember your request, follow up, or make adjustments? Words are easy. Actions reveal the truth. If someone consistently forgets or dismisses your needs, they're showing you that your voice carries little weight for them. Believe the evidence. Here's a scenario to picture. You tell a friend, "I'd appreciate if you text me when you're running late. It helps me plan." A respectful friend might say, "Of course, I didn't realize how important that was to you." Then, next time, they actually send the text. A disrespectful friend might laugh it off. You're too sensitive, and keep arriving late without notice. Which friend deserves your continued investment? The answer is clear. This principle applies everywhere. In the workplace, when you ask for clearer direction, does your manager respond with support or with dismissal? In family, when you ask for space, do they respect your boundary or guilt trip you? In relationships, when you ask for honesty, do they offer it or dodge it? These are not small details. They're the blueprint of how people value your presence. Here's where strength comes in. You don't need to beg for respect. You don't need to repeat yourself endlessly to those who refuse to listen. Strong people don't waste their clarity on people who choose confusion. They adjust their environment. They move toward spaces where their voice carries weight. Does that mean you cut everyone off at the first sign of resistance? No. Growth takes time. People may need a moment to adjust to the new you, the one who speaks clearly, directly, without apology. Give them that chance, but also give yourself a limit. If the pattern doesn't change, if the dismissal continues, protect your energy. Respect yourself enough to walk away. Because here's the paradox. When you protect your voice, others begin to respect it more. When you draw a line, people see you differently. They may grumble at first, but they eventually recognize that you won't stay silent anymore, and those who truly value you will rise to meet your standard. Let's ground this with a metaphor. Imagine your voice is currency. Each time you ask, you're spending that currency. Do you want to keep spending in shops that never give you change back? Or do you want to invest in places that honor the value of what you bring? The choice is yours. Here's the mantra to carry. Your ask is not just about the answer. It's about the respect behind the answer. A no delivered with honesty is better than a yes delivered with contempt. Because respect sustains growth. Disrespect suffocates it. So pay attention. Watch closely. Take notes if you need to. The way people respond to your ask reveals more about them than words ever could. And once you see the truth, you can choose your path with wisdom. Because the goal is not just to ask. The goal is to ask in spaces where your voice is honored, your needs are valued, and your presence is respected. You've learned how to notice who respects your ask and who doesn't. Now it's time to build the habit of persistence. Because here's the reality. Asking once isn't enough. Growth doesn't come from occasional bursts of courage. Progress comes from consistent repetition. You need to ask often and take action every single time. Think of asking as a muscle. If you only exercise it once in a while, it stays weak. But if you train it daily, stretching it, using it, pushing it, it grows strong. Soon, what once felt impossible becomes natural. And that's the goal. to make asking so woven into your life that it feels like breathing. Here's the problem most people fall into. They ask once, get a no, and stop. Or they ask once, hear a yes, and think that's enough. But a single ask won't transform your life. It might open a door, but momentum only builds when you keep knocking, keep moving, keep taking action. Asking often rewires your brain. Remember, your mind is conditioned to avoid discomfort. Every time you hesitate, your brain interprets asking as danger. But each time you override that hesitation, you teach your brain a new lesson. See? I asked, and the world didn't end. Over time, repetition replaces fear with familiarity. Let's bring in a metaphor. Imagine you're learning to swim. The first time you enter the water, panic rises. Your body fights the unfamiliar. But if you return daily, practice strokes, kick through fear, eventually the water feels natural. Asking works the same way. At first, every word feels heavy. But with enough practice, it becomes your environment, something you can move through with ease. Now, persistence without action is wasted energy. Some people love asking, but they stop there. They collect advice, opinions, feedback, and then do nothing. They confuse talking with progress. But asking is only the door. Action is what carries you through it. If you ask for clarity, use it. If you ask for opportunity, step into it. If you ask for help, apply it. Otherwise, you're just rehearsing without performing. Here's a drill. For the next week, set a daily ask and act challenge. Each day, make one ask that stretches you, big or small. Then, immediately follow it with action. If you asked for feedback, implement one suggestion that same day. If you asked for help, apply it before the day ends. If you asked for time, use that time productively. Asking plus acting creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence fuels more asking. This cycle is the secret behind fast growth. Not talent, not luck, consistency. The people who seem unstoppable are not necessarily the smartest. They are the ones who ask without hesitation and act without delay. They don't wait for ideal conditions. They don't stall in endless planning. They stay in motion, and motion compounds. Think of momentum like a flywheel in motion. At first, it's heavy, slow, resistant, but each push makes it spin faster. With enough effort, it spins on its own. Your habit of asking and acting works the same way. Each repetition makes the next one easier. Eventually, it becomes self-sustaining. You no longer need courage to start, because action itself fuels you. Let's talk about energy. Every time you delay action after an ask, you create mental friction. You fill your head with second-guessing. Should I really do this? Maybe I'll wait. Maybe I wasn't ready. That friction drains you. But when you act immediately, you clear the noise. You tell your mind, we're moving. That signal creates power. It shifts your identity from a hesitant dreamer to a decisive doer. Here's a scenario. You ask your manager for feedback on a project. They give you 3 points to improve. The hesitant version of you thanks them politely, then lets the notes sit untouched. Weeks later, nothing has changed. Respect declines. Momentum dies. The persistent version of you thanks them, then immediately applies one change. Next meeting, you show progress. Respect grows, momentum builds, and opportunities expand. The difference isn't talent, it's action after the ask. Another scenario. You tell a partner, I need more quality time with you. They agree, and you plan a dinner. The hesitant version of you waits for them to make it happen. The persistent version of you sets the date, books the table, and follows through. One builds frustration, the other builds connection. Again, the difference is persistence paired with action. Now, persistence doesn't mean being pushy. It doesn't mean nagging or demanding. It means showing up consistently, without apology, with respect for yourself and others. It's the quiet discipline of refusing to let fear or laziness silence you. Here's a practical tool. Set a 2-step rule. Every ask you make must be followed by 2 steps of action within 24 hours. If you ask for information, read it. If you ask for advice, test it. If you ask for opportunity, prepare for it. This rule ensures that asking doesn't become empty words. It becomes fuel. Over time, something remarkable happens. Asking often and acting consistently changes how you see yourself. You no longer view asking as risky. You view it as routine. You no longer see rejection as failure. You see it as feedback. You no longer need to hype yourself up. You simply move. That identity shift is priceless. Let's circle back to psychology. The human brain thrives on habit loops: cue, action, reward. When you make asking a daily habit, your brain begins craving the reward of clarity, connection, or opportunity. That craving overrides hesitation, and when you pair it with action, the reward multiplies. Soon, you don't just want to ask, you want to move, because movement feels better than stagnation. Here's the mantra: ask often, act always, not once in a while. Not when it feels safe. Daily, consistently, relentlessly. Because the person who asks often collects more information, builds more connections, and creates more chances. And the person who acts always turns those chances into results. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop asking once and calling it enough. Start building the habit. One ask, one action, every day. Small steps stack into big change, and big change begins the moment you choose persistence over hesitation. Because life doesn't change because you ask once. It changes because you ask often, act often, and refuse to stop. By now, you've trained yourself to ask often and to act every time. But repetition alone isn't enough. You also need to refine your strategy. Because asking isn't about throwing words into the air and hoping someone catches them. It's about understanding the people you're speaking to. Before you open your mouth, you need to step into their mind. Here's the truth. People don't respond to what you want. They respond to how your ask connects with what they want. Fear, value, or believe. If you don't take that into account, even the clearest words can land flat. The smartest askers are not just bold, they're observant. They know how to read the room, sense the rhythm, and shape their words to fit the listener. Think of it like fitting a key into a lock. The wrong key won't turn, no matter how hard you twist. The right key, even with the slightest pressure, clicks open. Your words are the key. Their psychology is the lock, and your job is to shape the key before you insert it. So how do you learn to read people? Start with listening. Not passive listening, but deep, focused attention. Notice how someone talks. Do they emphasize numbers, facts, logic? That person is driven by evidence. To reach them, bring data, results, clear proof. Or do they emphasize feelings, trust, and connection? Then they need to feel understood before they say yes. Pay attention to repeated themes. Some people speak often about control. They dislike being told what to do. If you push them, they resist. The key is to frame your ask as collaboration. not command. Others speak often about peace. They avoid conflict at all costs. If you corner them in a heated moment, they'll shut down. But if you give them calm space, they open up. Here's a drill. For the next 3 conversations, resist the urge to dominate. Instead, play detective. Ask yourself, what does this person value most? Efficiency, harmony, recognition, or security? Once you spot their pattern, tailor your ask. You'll be surprised at how much smoother your requests land. Let's walk through examples. At work, you want a raise. If your manager is a numbers-driven thinker, don't go in with emotional appeals. Go in with evidence. The revenue you generated, the deadlines you beat, the measurable impact you made. That's the language they trust. But if your manager is loyalty-driven, highlight your long-term commitment, your teamwork, your reliability. Both approaches ask for the same thing, but only one matches their mental framework. In relationships, the same rule applies. If your partner values independence, don't demand more time in a way that feels smothering. Instead, frame it as balance. I love that we both recharge in our own ways. Could we set aside 2 nights for us this week? That language respects their need for space, while still voicing your need for closeness. If your partner values connection above all, be open, affectionate, engaged. Frame your ask as an opportunity to deepen the bond. This isn't manipulation, it's respect. Respect for how someone processes the world. Respect for the filters they live through. It's not about faking, it's about aligning. And alignment makes asking more effective. Now, some people resist this idea. They think, why should I change how I ask? Shouldn't people just accept me as I am? But here's the reality. Communication is never one-sided. It's a bridge. You can stand on your side forever and shout across, or you can walk halfway and meet the other person where they are. Which one builds results? Which one builds trust? Always the bridge. Here's another drill. The next time you prepare to ask, pause and answer 3 questions. 1. What does this person fear? 2. What does this person value? 3. How can I frame my ask to honor both? For example, let's say you want your colleague to adopt a new workflow. They fear wasted time. They value efficiency. Instead of saying, this new method is better, say, this workflow will cut your weekly prep by 30 minutes. Fear addressed, value honored, ask delivered. It's not about changing the truth of your ask. It's about translating it into a language the other person can hear. Another point. Timing matters. Some people need space to think. If you press them for an immediate answer, they'll say no just to protect themselves. Others need enthusiasm in the moment. Wait too long and they lose interest. Watch their patterns. Do they light up when discussing ideas spontaneously? Or do they prefer to retreat, reflect, and return with thoughts later? Match your timing to their rhythm. The more you practice this, the sharper your instincts grow. Eventually, you'll sense before you speak what will resonate. Your asks will land, not like demands, but like invitations. And here's the reward. People respect those who get them. When you take the time to understand someone's perspective, they feel valued. And valued people are more likely to respond positively. Even if they can't say yes, they'll respect your approach. That respect compounds. Over time, you become known not just as someone who asks, but as someone who asks intelligently. This is how influence is built. Not by shouting louder, not by demanding more, but by aligning your words with the psychology of the listener. It's subtle, but powerful. and it separates those who get ignored from those who get results. So remember this. Asking is not just about courage, it's about connection. Before you speak, step into their shoes. Listen deeply, observe carefully, and shape your words with respect. Because when your ask matches their mind, the answer is far more likely to be yes. You've learned to shape your ask for the listener's mind. You've learned persistence and clarity. But there's still one final dragon most people never slay. The belief that you must feel ready before you speak. That somehow confidence is a prerequisite. That you'll ask boldly after the nerves disappear. Here's the truth. You will always feel nervous. Your body will always react. And that's not a problem. Nervousness is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you care. Think about the last time you wanted to speak up. Maybe in a meeting, maybe with a partner, maybe to ask for an opportunity. Your palms sweated, your chest tightened, your voice wavered. That sensation made you retreat. You told yourself, "Not now. I'll wait until I'm calmer." But calm never came. Did it? You stayed quiet, and the moment passed. Here's what you need to understand. Your body interprets asking as risk. Risk of judgment, risk of rejection, risk of standing out. So it floods you with adrenaline. That's why your hands shake, your stomach flips, your breath shortens. It's biology doing its job. But biology doesn't know the difference between a predator chasing you and a conversation that makes you vulnerable. The same alarm bell rings. Your job is not to silence the alarm. Your job is to move anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act while fear hums in your chest. Confidence doesn't come before the ask. Confidence comes because you asked. Every time you speak through the nerves, you prove to your body, "This is safe. I survived." Over time, the alarm quiets. Not because fear disappeared, but because you stopped obeying it. Here's a drill. Start small. The next time you feel nervous, don't run. Don't wait. Say what you need to say in a short, clear sentence. Then breathe. Notice how the world doesn't collapse. Notice how the tension fades after the moment passes. Repeat. Each repetition rewires your nervous system. Soon, nervousness no longer feels like danger. It feels like fuel. Picture it like weightlifting. At first, the bar feels impossibly heavy. Your arms shake, your grip trembles. But with each rep, you grow stronger. The bar doesn't get lighter, you get stronger. Nervousness works the same way. It never vanishes, but your capacity grows. Let's imagine a scene. You're in a meeting with executives. Your idea could change the project, but your chest is tight. You hear the old voice whispering, "Don't risk it." You pause, breathe, and speak anyway. Your voice quivers at first, but you push through. The room listens, whether they agree or not. You've shifted. You've claimed space. You leave the meeting taller than you entered. That's the magic of speaking through nerves. You grow, no matter the outcome. Another truth. People respect honesty over polish. You think a shaky voice makes you weak. It doesn't. It makes you human. What matters isn't perfect delivery. It's the courage to speak. Some of the most powerful moments in history were delivered with trembling voices, not because the speaker felt fearless, but because they spoke anyway. Here's a tool for the next time your body betrays you. Reframe the sensation. Instead of telling yourself, "I'm nervous," say, "I'm excited." Physiologically, the signals are almost identical: racing heart, sweaty palms, heightened focus. The label changes the story. Nervousness becomes energy. Energy becomes power. Use it. Now let's confront another lie, that speaking your needs makes others think less of you. In reality, the opposite is true. When you voice your truth, people see you as confident, even if you're nervous. They see clarity, they see self-respect, and self-respect commands respect from others. Silence doesn't protect you, it diminishes you. Unspoken needs don't disappear. They rot. They turn into resentment, stress, and distance. Over time, you blame others for not understanding you, when the truth is, you never gave them the chance. The cure is simple, but hard. Speak, even with shaking hands. Here's another drill. Each morning, stand in front of a mirror and say one need out loud. It can be small. I need rest today. I need clarity in this project. I need support from my team. Practice until your voice no longer cracks. Then carry that clarity into your day. The mirror trains you before the world tests you. Remember, unmet needs are painful, but unspoken needs are worse. Because unspoken needs trap you in invisibility. At least when you speak, you give life the chance to respond. You open doors. You create movement. This isn't about demanding. It's not about control. It's about honesty. Honest words clear the fog. Honest words build trust. Honest words, spoken even through nerves, protect your peace better than silence ever could. So stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting for the nerves to vanish. They won't, and they don't need to. You can speak with shaking hands. You can ask with a racing heart. You can claim space even when your body resists. Each time you do, you grow. Because life doesn't change when you finally feel ready. It changes when you act while you're not. You've stood in your nerves, spoken through rejection, asked with clarity, and noticed who honors your voice. You've practiced persistence until asking feels like muscle memory. Now comes the final layer, the discipline of making this your way of life. Asking can't remain a tool you pick up occasionally. It must become your default mode of communication, a reflex that guides every choice, every interaction, every opportunity. Here's the truth. Silence has been your default for years. You've been conditioned to hold back, to wait, to hope others notice. That reflex is deep, but it's not permanent. You can override it with a new reflex, the reflex of asking. And the way you do that is by making it daily, consistent, unstoppable. Think of a musician practicing scales. At first, each note feels forced, clumsy, but with repetition, the fingers learn the shape, the body remembers. Soon, the musician doesn't think, they just play. That's what you're training here. Asking becomes your scale. Your voice becomes your instrument. And with enough practice, you don't hesitate, you flow. So how do you turn asking into your default? By lowering the threshold. Don't wait for monumental requests. Start with the small ones. Ask for clarification in a meeting. Ask a friend for their opinion. Ask for help carrying something heavy. Each micro-ask reinforces the pattern. I speak, I act, I move forward. Pair this with consistent follow-through. Asking alone can't build momentum. Action after asking solidifies the loop. You ask, you act, you grow. Repeat enough times, and hesitation no longer has space to live. But let's go deeper. Making asking your lifestyle isn't just about habit. It's about identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates, doubts, or silences. You start seeing yourself as someone who speaks, leads, and claims. That identity shift changes everything. It alters how you carry yourself into rooms, how people perceive you, how opportunities find you. Because the world responds not just to what you say, but to the energy of who you are. Here's a drill. At the end of each day, write down every ask you made, big or small. Then note the action you took afterward. Over time, you'll see the volume increase. What felt rare becomes routine, and soon, you'll look back at the list and realize you've become someone who asks without fear, without delay. Now, let's address the truth. Most ignore. Asking doesn't guarantee yes. You'll still hear no. You'll still face rejection. But here's the difference. When asking is your lifestyle, rejection loses its power. It's just another note in the song. You don't stop playing because one note sounds off. You keep moving, and the melody continues. And here's the hidden reward. When asking becomes normal, you stop attaching your self-worth to outcomes. You no longer crumble at a no. You no longer inflate at a yes. You stay steady, grounded, clear. Because your identity isn't tied to the answer. It's tied to the courage of the ask. Imagine the freedom of that. Walking into any room, any relationship, any opportunity, with the certainty that you can voice your needs, state your goals, claim your space, not because you know the answer will be yes, but because you know your voice will be heard. That freedom is priceless. Here's another truth. Asking as a lifestyle doesn't just change what you get. It changes who you become. You become bolder, clearer, more decisive. You become someone others look to for leadership. You become someone who doesn't sit on the sidelines, but steps into the center of their own life. Think of the ripple effect. Every ask creates movement. That movement creates momentum. That momentum creates transformation. Soon, you're not just changing your own life, you're influencing those around you. Your courage gives others permission to speak. Your clarity inspires others to be direct. Your persistence becomes contagious. That's the power of making asking a lifestyle. It doesn't just free you, it frees others. So here's the command. Never stop. Don't let this be a phase, a burst of courage that fades with time. Cement it, practice it, live it, because the moment you stop asking, hesitation sneaks back in, silence whispers again, fear rebuilds its cage. But if you keep asking, daily, relentlessly, you stay free. Let's anchor this with one final drill. Each morning, set one daily ask. It could be small, it could be bold, but commit to it. Don't end the day until you've spoken it. Over weeks, months, years. Those daily asks compound into a life you once thought was impossible. And as this habit deepens, you'll notice a profound shift. You stop waiting for life to happen. You start creating it. You stop wishing. You start moving. You stop playing small. You start living fully. Because at the end of the day, your life will not rise to the level of your silence. It will rise to the level of your ask. You've walked through the full journey, breaking silence, dismantling fear, practicing clarity, respecting your voice, reading others' minds, and building the unshakable habit of asking. 13 sections, each one a rung on the ladder, pulling you higher and higher toward a life where you no longer wait in the shadows, but step boldly into the light. Now it's time to soften the pace, to let the words settle, to breathe into the future you're creating. This isn't the end of a book. It's the beginning of a new way of living. Pause for a moment and look back. Think about the times you stayed quiet, the opportunities that slipped away, the moments where you told yourself, maybe later. Those memories may sting, but they also remind you of how far you've come, because now you know the truth. Silence was never safety. Silence was surrender, and you've chosen not to surrender anymore. Carry with you the mantras that have echoed through these chapters. Clarity creates peace. Rejection is direction. Asking is not weakness, it's responsibility. Your voice matters. Your needs count. Your life expands at the speed of your ask. Let those phrases root themselves in your mind until they become your automatic response. Every morning, remind yourself that confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build in motion. Each ask you make is proof. Proof that you trust yourself. Proof that you're willing to risk discomfort for growth. Proof that you're done waiting for permission that will never come. And when fear whispers again, as it will, remember this: the cost of regret will always be greater than the cost of rejection. You can recover from a no. You cannot recover from the life you never lived because you never asked. So take this with you as you close these pages. Your life is waiting to respond. Doors are waiting to open. People are waiting to hear your voice. But none of it moves until you move. Ask boldly. Ask clearly. Ask often. Ask without apology. Because you don't get what you deserve. You get what you ask for. And now, you are someone who asks.